Today, we are talking to another legend in the tech community. His presence has been huge, and he has been a mentor to many. And we are going to get the lowdown on his journey, mentorship, and what makes him tick. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to another FUTRtech video podcast. The audio version of the podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and most of the others, or you can find it at FUTR.buzzsprout.com. Rajesh Kapoor, or as many know him by his nickname Sheik, has been at NetApp for more than 21 years and is now a senior director. He carries the unofficial title of CRO, Chief Reality Officer. For fun, he likes to jump out of planes, run marathons, climb mountains, mentor high school seniors, and recently he completed a half Ironman. And we are very excited to have him on today. Welcome, Rajesh.
Chris, thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you and Sandesh.
Thanks so much for being on. This is really a treat because, like I said, you are a legend in the industry.
Legend in whose mind? Yours?
Definitely in
or
mine.
My own?
Definitely in mine, but there's not much left of that. So, so take that for what it's worth. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, a lot of people have seen you around, seen you at the shows, but tell me about that journey, that personal journey of yours.
Well, that personal journey of mine started when I was, 8 years old. So I'll start there and I'll make it fast forward because it relates to the nickname Sheik. Chris, Sandesh, you guys have been in many meetings with me, right? And, the first thing that I always get questioned on, can you call a short Indian guy Sheik? So I'm going to give you the explanation around that. I came to the States when I was 8 years old. Landed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, huge Minnesota Vikings fan, but we grew up 200 miles straight north of the Twin Cities in a little town called Hibbing, Minnesota. By the way, there's 3 famous people from Hibbing, Minnesota, and we can talk about that later. But they had never seen a person of brown skin up there. And they're like, dude, we're going to call you Raj. I'm like, no, you're not going to call me by my mom's name. Come up with a different nickname. And Sheik has stuck ever since. So from that respect, the first thing that it does, it actually breaks the ice when you're talking to a bunch of IT technologists or geeks in general, that you can actually have a human conversation with this guy. So that's my journey as to how I got the nickname Sheik. Now, from thereafter, if you want to talk about my professional career, I'm happy to talk about that. Is that where you want to go, Chris?
Yeah, well, so first of all, I got to say, as a guy who probably couldn't get more white than me, I there's a level of discomfort I have in calling you Sheik. I feel like I'm going to be on the Hank Azaria apology tour if I do that. But but I did look this one up, and so if you go to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the first definition of Sheik is an Arab chief, but the second one, usually Sheik, it says, spelled without the H at the end, a man held to be irresistibly attractive to romantic young women.
I'll let my wife know that one.
Yeah, I mean, knowing you now, I think I feel free to call you Sheik.
Not in the romantic way either, right?
Oh, well, we'll see how it goes. Now that we've cleared up the whole Sheik controversy, tell us about your business life, your technology world, that journey too.
Yeah, I mean, so Chris, my journey began at IBM. As an Indian, Sandesh can relate to this. You better be an engineer or you better be a doctor in your parents' minds. And if you're not one of those two, you're going to get disowned from the family. So I didn't want to go to med school. I wanted to basically, take the easy route and go to 4 years of college and then go and make some money. So my career began at IBM doing microcode development. You want to talk about a sexy job? That was a sexy job. 2.5 years of microcode development on the AS400. And I knew it then. That's not long for me.
Unlike
I
the AS400, which is still kicking. See them all over the place. Crazy.
That's actually pretty funny, Chris, because I got hired by Cargill, which is the largest privately held company in the world. It's based in Minneapolis. They hired me on because they were going to say, and mind you, this is many, many years ago. I'm not going to tell you the decades, but many years ago. I'll tell you, 1995. They're like, we're getting off the AS400 in 2 years and we need support. And I think if I go back there still, the AS400 is still running. It's called I-Series now because it's a sexier name, but it's still running.
Well, you can't ever get rid of them because the only reason they're there is because they run the most critical business apps that nobody can figure out how to port to something else, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But Cargill thought they were going to get off the AS400 and they hired me for support. And 5.5 years at Cargill, I'm like, yeah, this is probably not the right place for me, which led me into, me figuring out what network appliance was back in the day. And there was a gentleman actually at Data Link Insight back in the day. Greg Felling was my sales rep. And Matt Amantorp, who worked at NetApp, they came in and they did this pitch on network attached storage. Never heard of it. 1998, never heard of it. It was I was rolling out a very large Citrix project. And one of the biggest challenges that we were having was this aspect of, file serving and profiles and that kind of stuff. And it didn't work correctly with my old platform, which was Windows file servers. And these guys are like, this is network attached storage. This is the best thing since sliced bread. I rolled that thing out. We rolled it out to 80 sites around Cargill. And I said, this thing is pretty freaking cool. I need to go work for this company. Matt Amantorp can tell you this. And some of my friends at EMC can tell you this. After a year of rolling this thing out, NetApp came to recruit me and I turned him down because I feel guilty about leaving a large project. I just can't leave. And then basically when I finished the project in the middle of 99, I went to Matt Amantorp and then basically said to him, I said, hey, either you can hire me or I'm going to work for your competitor. And I got an offer like literally about 2 days later from NetApp. And I quite honestly, I have not looked back. I've been fortunate enough to be at NetApp, Network Appliance to start, NetApp for 21 years now. I still feel like I'm 25 years old. Sometimes people say I act like I'm 25 years old. But I have been very, very fortunate in working for a company that's helped me grow, right? And I'm very proud of that and proud of the people that I've been associated with. And I know we'll talk about that in a second, but it has been a unbelievable journey for me being at NetApp in my professional career, because I don't think I would have found this anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, and you were there at really interesting times. I mean, there was a meteoric rise for NetApp back in the day. I mean, you were really one hot company for a long time. And, you've obviously become a very mature and large company, but those must have been really fun times.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, that's a great point, right? Everybody kind of looks at their career. Everybody kind of looks at what they've done. And when you're in the moment, right, you don't realize how great it is.
Yeah.
The comment around stop and smell the roses every once in a while, I wish I would have internalized some of that stuff, whether it was in college, whether it was because in college, and once again, right, I'm speaking on behalf of my brothers and sisters, right, the Indian folks. You better get a 4.0 or else you're going to get knocked upside the head. So guess what I did? I studied my butt off. People would tell me, my uncle would tell me, stop and smell the roses, go enjoy. I remember at, going to college back in the day, and my uncle said, you should take 6 months off. Go take 6 months off and go travel because you're never going to get the opportunity.
That does not sound like an Asian household.
My parents said, you are going to school in the fall. And guess who I listened to? I went to school. I go back and I look at those things and I say, you know what? You're not going to get that opportunity again. So I love having this dialogue because lesson learned, and maybe somebody's listening to this. Hey, stop and smell the roses. Early days of NetApp were awesome. Mid days of NetApp are awesome. Everything changes. Everything evolves. You got to stop and smell the roses. It's as simple as that.
Well, and to enjoy that ride for a company that's growing and changing as much as that, you have to be open to growth and change too, because that's one of the things I think a lot of people run into problems with. They're there for the early days where they do a lot of different things, and then they kind of, the company gets bigger, there's more people, and they just can't change to adapt to that. Yeah,
I mean, Chris, let me turn the question around on you. Like early days of you getting into the technology field, there was probably that one moment that you said, all right, I kind of know what I'm doing.
Podcast.
Because when I went to Network Appliance, I'll tell you right now, I didn't know what I was doing. It was like, hey, this technology is cool. Technologists, are the people that I deal with. And why doesn't everybody get it? Like, Why don't they just get it? Is there a point in your career where that happened? Like, hey, why don't people just get it?
Well, it's funny. I think, I look at people who are, like saying, oh my God, my job's going away. And I feel like my job has gone away about every 6 months. And I had to learn an entirely new field every 6 months. So the only thing I feel like in the technology space that I've ever known is adapting and changing and learning something new the whole time. Right. I mean, I'm sure that's what you've been doing too, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. And the big thing was in my early, once again, right, we're going to talk about mentorship. There's been some people that you get surrounded by that really help you with this, right? People that tell you like it is. And I'm going to give you that example. My aha moment of what I was doing at NetApp or Network Appliance NetApp now was Matt and myself coming out of a meeting at a large financial house in Minneapolis. I'm not going to reference who they are because I don't think that's important. Maybe they might get mad at me, but I was in the meeting, and this is me 9 months into the company. And I was explaining how Active Directory works for the old time folks, how Active Directory works with the filer, because that's what everybody called it. That's what everybody still calls it. But I was talking about how a multi-domain model fits into this environment. And I thought I did a great job of explaining, right? I'm talking to a technologist on the other side of the table, and they're responsible for the Windows environment. Hence, in the back of my mind is they know Active Directory like the back of my hand, just like me. And I guess I explained it way too quickly because Mr. Amantorp came out of that meeting and he says to me, that was my sales rep. He says to me, I asked him how I did. And Matt's like, Sheik, you need to slow down and you need to explain it in great detail. I'm like, Matt, this guy was like the architect of their domain. He's like, Sheik, one thing that you will understand in your technology environment or your understanding and your learnings is you need to slow down and help people explain through that journey. Best lesson ever learned, right? Just because we are technologists at heart, people don't automatically get it. And I'm telling you, that was my first mentorship relationship where somebody stopped and said, I wasn't doing something right. And then how to fix it. And that helped me, I look at that lesson all the time. And that lesson has helped me throughout my career. And even to some parts of today, right? Us as technologists, we think everybody just gets it. And we don't. We got to stop and explain it to people around you. And that lesson stays with me forever.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about on that. I've never had that problem before.
Well, maybe
maybe yesterday or
Yeah, constantly. I'm the one that tells you that too, Chris. Because I'm like, Chris, listen, like he just throws out all these like buzzwords and acronyms and all this stuff, and I can tell that no one knows what he's talking about, right? But into his head, it's like, this is easy. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I think you should probably explain that part. And it's usually what it is.
We all have our blind spots, right? I mean, and when you talk about things that, maybe you talk with other people who are, like equally technically proficient in that particular area, you don't even think about that stuff. And so, you have to, like you said, you have to check yourself all the time to make sure people are understanding. Or the other option is just don't care if people understand.
People will see right through you when you don't care. And one of the things that once again, right, keeping people abreast on things in technology, take your time. Take your time and explain it, and you will be viewed very differently in front of people. I've learned that. You look different, right? Just because you think they know it. I go back and ask questions. I love it when somebody turns around and says, "That was a great point. Can you explain it in depth?" Right? And that's when somebody cares. And I feel like sometimes in technology we need to take that extra step and really, really help people understand it. And then people that don't understand it, help them along the journey. Sometimes people just like, they just keep going, and it's like, that's not me. So that's one lesson that's just carried through my 20 plus years at NetApp and professionally, anything that I do. Chris, you brought up earlier, some of the outside the box things that I do.
Yeah.
Marathon, Mount Rainier, then a try, learning how to do. I've set a goal for myself every year. I basically do something that's completely outside my comfort zone. It has nothing to do with technology. It is something that I don't need to do. It's something that I want to learn. And I've set those different things out there. Hey, Sandesh, how many short Indian guys run a marathon?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's just look at history. Nobody's saying, hey, look at those Indian guys. Man, they can run and jump so fast, so high. That just doesn't happen.
I don't know. I've watched some Bollywood, and, they jump pretty damn high. They can dance on motorcycle handlebars and, sing on mountaintops.
Can you reenact one of those for us right now?
Go for it, Sandesh.
Yeah.
I didn't. I asked you, Chris.
Well, I'm going to hem and haw on that one.
No, so the reason why I bring that up is you've got to balance your career and some of this stuff that's outside of what you're doing on day in and day out basis, because it'll help you balance itself out. Here's how I got after the whole marathon thing, right? Somebody said, Sheik, you can't run a marathon. And I'm like, F you, watch me do it. And I remember the first time I got on a treadmill. I still keep this. I have a spreadsheet on like my first learnings of a try. And I got on the treadmill. I ran for 1.8 miles. I ran it in 22 minutes, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I'm like, what did I just sign up for? This is the dumbest thing in the world. But slowly but surely, you build that muscle memory of, practice and training, and you get better at it. And I have been fortunate enough to complete 4 marathons. And wow. I have a very, very funny marathon story if we want to go there. But I've learned from a lot of people. I have been surrounded by people that I would have never met if I didn't do this. So if I would have just, stayed on the technology side, it's like, all right, the people that I associate myself with there, I keep doing that. But the marathon thing got me into a different group, and it got me to learning from different people. It's a great thing. After finishing my 4th one, I said, I got to go do something else. I got to go figure it, because, weekend in, weekend out, doing 16, 18 mile runs is like ready to shoot yourself. and I'm like, I'm gonna go learn how to climb a mountain. So I decided that we're going to have a small team and we're going to go to Mount Rainier to go climb a mountain. Oh my God, was that a difficult, laborious task?
Yeah.
When people tell you that you have to go over crevasses with ladders down, you don't understand what that means unless you are looking straight down 200-foot cliff and you're walking across this ladder, which is literally about 8 inches long.
Wow.
Sandesh, you want to go?
No. My palms are already sweating just thinking about the heights. That would not work for me.
I associated myself with a brand new group of people that wanted to do this, so I got to learn from them. We've done Rainier 3 times. I have never summited yet, but I have learned so much. And I can explain that if you guys want to go there. Then I got done with that and I'm like, hey, let's go. My father-in-law was doing tries. So I'm like, oh, I should be able to do a try. Same story as like first time on the treadmill, running 1.8 miles in 22 minutes, which is absolutely ridiculous. I got in the pool for the first time. By the way, to do a half try, you need to be able to do 40 laps in the pool without stopping. First time I got in the pool, I went one length down. Halfway back, I had to grab the wall because I was going to drown.
Wow.
But once again, you sit there, you live, you learn, and you gain another skill. Gain another skill.
So what you're saying is there's life outside of work is what you're saying. I don't think Chris understands that.
Well, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. That's going to screw up my whole world.
Well, Chris has got his gadgets, right? We could talk about his setup and stuff, right, Sandesh?
I don't know how much he really
so
plays
out of
these
work?
days. Yeah, exactly.
I see his guitars up there.
Yeah, unfortunately, spend more time on the wall than they do in my hands, but such is life when you get older.
Yeah, I understand. Actually, my outside the box learning for this year is learning how to play piano. So that's what I'm learning how to do.
I've got the keyboard right over here. So, we can do a duet.
Once again, right, my kids learned how to play the piano, and it now allows me to spend time with my 12-year-old daughter because she teaches me. And it is, it's not, there's no screen. It's her sitting down next to me, teaching me how to play the piano. And I love, bonding, right? That simple thing of bonding, being able to do that.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun. So much fun.
I want to also talk about your other passion, which is mentoring. And you've done quite a bit of it already on this podcast. Which is awesome. But tell me about, that passion of yours.
People always say there is somebody that taught you and got you to where you're at today. I'll give all the credit to my mom and dad for my work ethics and what they have taught me. Because Chris, my parents came to the States with $250 in their pockets. My brother being 9, me being 8. Couldn't speak one lick of English when we came here, right? So parents aside, the work ethics and what they've taught me has been extremely, extremely important. The notion of paying it forward, I saw that. I didn't see that at my career at IBM. I didn't see that in my career at Cargill. I saw that when I came to NetApp, where you get that one person or you get that team that's around you that really, people say that you can do anything, right? In the back of your mind is like, yeah, you've got a whole bunch of people saying no. But that is one thing that was taught intrinsically to me at NetApp. People like Tom Mendoza, people like Dave Hitz, people like Thomas Stanley, they are the cornerstone of where my mentorship outside of my parents and my family sit aside, right? Because your family should be always there for you to be a great mentor. But the folks that I just referenced, passion about caring, truly caring about somebody. You could tell, Tom Mendoza could meet you one time, or Thomas Stanley could meet you one time, and he would remember everything about you. And I'm like, how is that possible? So I took that to heart very early on at NetApp. And I said, I'm going to try to do that. So that mentorship started with those gentlemen, Matt Amantorp, Greg Felling, right? See, these are some of the guys that helped me understand that. I took that mentorship program mentorship thought, and I really put it into giving back. Everybody say paying it forward, whatever you want. But in 2009, what I wanted to do was give back to the community that gave me so much. And the community was Hibbing, Minnesota. And I went back to my high school, and I said, hey, here's what I want to do. Do you guys want to try it? And what I wanted to do was I wanted to go and, the same thing my early mentors at NetApp taught me. You can do anything you want. You just need that extra push. I wanted to repeat that with this younger generation, right? And the first year that I was up in Hibbing, it was with a bunch of 10th graders. And I don't know who got more out of it, if it was me or those 10th graders, but it felt really good. And I'll share one story with you. So we started the day, and I basically said, hey, I'm up here to teach you guys and gals. Do you want me to teach you guys or gals about computer science, because I was in a computer science class? Or do you want to have a dialogue with me? Everybody shut their computers, shut their books. They're like, oh, free day. We're going to just have a discussion. And I said, the only stipulation is everybody in this classroom needs to ask me a question, because it's not going to be a one-way dialogue. Do you guys know how hard it is to get high school students to actually talk?
I have a high school student in my house. I know exactly how hard it is.
Is it like pulling teeth, Chris?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, and now once again, right? They're looking at me like as an authority figure, so that's even worse.
Yep.
So we go through one of the hours, and everybody asks me a question, and I kept a mental track of who didn't ask me a question. And there was this boy that was in the back, and I'll reference his first name, and he knows that I tell this story, but his name was Dakota, and I'm like, Dakota, you haven't asked me a question. He's like, Mr. Kapoor, I don't have a question to ask you. I'm like, that's not how this little exercise works.
That was not the deal.
That was absolutely not the deal. I'm like, he's like, I don't have anything to ask you. I'm like, dude, ask me the color of my sock. I don't care. We got to get through this exercise. He's like, okay, I got a question for you. I'm like, fire away. He's like, what kind of car do you drive? I'm like, what? He's like, I want to know what kind of car you drive. I'm like, I drive a BMW 335 Xi. He's like, you're shitting me. I'm like, what? He's like, can you come over here? So he invites me back to his desk, opens up his laptop, and his screen on the back, there's a 335 Xi as his background. He's like, I'm like, you like that car? He's like, that is my favorite car. I'm like, so I invited him. I'm like, come over here. We walked over to the window. I said, that's my car out there. I'm like, you want to go sit in it? He's like, you would let me sit in it? I'm like, you want to go take it for a drive? Now he's thinking that I'm pulling his chain. I'm like, dude, no, as long you're 16 years old, you have a license, you have insurance. As long as the teacher says it's okay, let's go out. If you want to drive it, let's go out to the car and drive. So I took this 16-year-old out to the car, permissions and everything by the school. We went out in the car, and he gets in the car, and it is the most I wish I would have recorded this thing. One of the most entertaining things in the world. He gets in the car, and if anybody's seen the movie Driving Miss Daisy, he's driving this car like he's driving Miss Daisy, just very slow and awkward. I'm like, dude, this car is meant to be driven. Just hit the accelerator. Just you're in this car, just drive it. He's like, I'm too scared. I'm like, just hit the accelerator. Dakota hits the accelerator, and the car just takes off. And the grin on his face was priceless. That was the day that it taught me how to pay it forward. And he will never forget that. He shares it with all his students. But I felt at that point, right, mentorship is so important. A simple thing like that, because what he came back with, and he sent me a note after the fact, he's like, I'm going to work my butt off in order to get that car. And, once again, touching heart, 6 years later, he sent me another note. He's like, I got that car, and here's what I did to go get it. He wasn't planning on going to college or anything like that. He did.
Wow.
And, that's mentorship. And I have been able, very, very fortunate in keeping that tradition alive at Hibbing High School. So we have a formal program, minus this past year, because you can't go up there of COVID. But the program that I have set up is September. I go up and I talk to only seniors in high school. And the program is, in September, I talk to them, and I call it kick you in the butt speech. Everyone that has had that kick you in the butt speech understands what I'm saying. It's, you can do anything you want. Just like my early career at NetApp, Mr. Mendoza said to me, you can do, power of one, he would always say, you can do whatever you want. And it is up to you. You just got to act upon it. I do that in September. In December, we do a class called Financial Acumen. Chris, you know what that is?
I have no financial acumen.
Oh, this is just, once again, right? Go to high school seniors. Here's what we do in this brainstorming exercise. We basically, I'm like, everybody get a piece of paper out, and we're going to brainstorm as a group what it costs to really live in the world. So we write down everything on this piece of paper, right? And it's a monthly budget. So what do you think the first thing they put on their paper?
I have no idea what a teenager would. iPhone, of course.
Oh, the phone.
Can't live without a cell phone. I'm like, okay, right? That's just a given. You got to have a cell phone.
Yeah.
But they list out everything on the sheet. And then we get together as a group, and then we discuss, what does it actually cost? What does it cost to have a plan on a cell phone? Because many of these kids don't understand what that is. One of the funniest parts is when we get to the food, like, okay, here's the budget for food. You know, some of the kids have said, like, yeah, I'm going to budget $50 a month. I'm like,
they don't know how much a teenager eats.
I'm like, $50 a month? Is that for the ramen noodles and then the water that you're stealing from your neighbor because you can't afford that? But it's really, I mean, it puts them, it grounds them. It helps them understand. Example, you know, they'll budget for a car. They'll budget for the actual cost of the car, like a loan. They'll budget for oil changes. They'll budget for gasoline. I'm like, you still can't drive that car. They're like, what do you mean, Mr. Kapoor, I can't drive that car? I'm like, there's these little things called tabs, right? That you get from the state that you have to put on the car. You don't pay for those. You're illegal out there. I do that purposely to make them think about all the things around that.
Yeah.
We do that in December. In March, April timeframe, we do career day. And in fact, I've gotten many customers to actually go up there with me and, talk about their career in front of 200 students. And once again, it's been outstanding with that. And then in May, right before graduation, I go up there, and one of my other passions is, the stock market and what the stock market's about. So I teach them how to invest, right? Simple notion of compound interest. By the time we're done with that hour, they get the compound interest and they're like, tell me more. Which stock should I buy? But Chris, I'm very, very passionate about, the mentorship aspect of it. It is rewarding. It is rewarding because you never know. You never know when you're going to affect somebody. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. I'll just say it. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool because it's allowed me to stay connected with, students or people that I have worked through that program now going on 10 years. It has been outstanding. In fact, I was exchanging a message via LinkedIn yesterday because my brother, who works for Cisco, was looking for an intern. And there was a gal that I've been mentoring and hibbing that her major was computer science. I'm like, how about we connect you together, right? One of the biggest things in a mentorship program, it's the networking. And, I can tell you, right, Chris, when you were sitting as a high school senior, did you ever think about mentorships or anything like that?
No, I did not. And I think the other interesting thing about what you're doing is actually sponsorship, which is an addition to the mentorship, which is a really key piece of it too.
Yeah, I mean, as a 17, 18-year-old in high school, there's a few things that you're thinking about, right? Yeah. And, this is one avenue to help young adults, get ready for that next chapter of life. And I have been, once again, right, I'm sure, Sandesh, if you had a mentor that you wanted to speak about, you could tell all the great things about him or her, right? And this is one avenue of me being able to give back. Mentorship is extremely important,
especially in our industry, right? One of the things, have you ever watched this documentary called Happy?
I have not. Now I'm going to.
It was out maybe within the last decade, but it won some awards. And what they do is they study what makes people happy, but they go around the world and they're looking at everyone from small villages in India to the very rich and famous, and just looking at all different kind of demographics and everything. And they really look at it from a scientific perspective. And one of the things that, when you get to the end, I'll blow this for you a little bit, but ultimately what I found so moving for me was the number one thing that made people happy was altruism and helping other people, right? And it's, as I've been getting older, right, these aren't things that I was thinking about when I was even in my 20s. It's like giving back to the community and giving back to people and, just doing things because, I want to pay it forward kind of stuff. And it's something that you should definitely watch, but it's awesome. Right now, this is a lot of stuff that Chris is, shaves his hair, St. Baldrick's, yep. And, does all that kind of great stuff, So I think what you're doing is great. And it's inspirational for me, right? Because, this is what I want to do. I had people like Tom Mendoza, right? To just say, he would say one thing and at the right time, and still to this day, I use it. Yeah. And it was just that one moment in time. He said the right thing to me and it made sense. Like just this simple thing about like your three personal goals and your three professional goals and writing them down. It's on my calendar, and if I never had that conversation and he never preached that, I would have never done it. But look at the impact that it had on my life.
Yeah. Sometimes awesome. The simple things go a long ways, right? They definitely go a long way. Chris, I don't know how much more time we have, but I would like to share one other quick mentorship story.
Absolutely. Go for it.
And this is another one that, once again, right, I feel so fortunate. I feel so fortunate that I've been surrounded by, some really great people. one thing that I will give it once again, right? Whether people want to hear advice or not, you got to put yourself in that situation and be vulnerable, right? To go ask for mentorship opportunities. Many years ago, Tom Mendoza invited myself and 3 other people to a dinner in New York City. And we went to dinner, and he introduced us to a gentleman named Colonel Eric Kale. Colonel Eric Kale taught leadership at West Point. And it was the first time I ever met somebody from West Point you wouldn't call it his stature, but his responsibility and his demeanor. And he's teaching leadership at West Point. First time I meet him. Second time I meet him is at a St. Baldrick event. For the people that don't know about St. Baldrick, it's shaving your head. Chris, I didn't realize you did it, but that is freaking awesome.
I am, in fact, a squire of hope.
Wow.
St. Baldrick's.
It is a charity to give back for kids with cancer. It is a awesome opportunity. Second time I meet him is at a St. Baldrick event in New York City. I meet him for the third time at an event where I got invited to the Leadership Academy at West Point. And once again, right, for a guy that came to the States that couldn't speak a lick of English, getting invited to West Point through NetApp, how cool is that? And then I finally had the courage enough to basically put myself out there. And I walked up to Colonel Eric Kale and I said, Colonel Kale, I would like for you to be my mentor. It took him about 3 milliseconds. Once again, right, technology term. And he turned around and he's like, done. I'm like, okay, now I've put myself out there. I have a mentor, an external mentor, which I consider, high caliber, right? And Colonel Eric Kale is teaching leadership. So this is a formal mentorship. I would get on the phone with him and I would talk to him for 30 to 45 minutes every other month. We actually did a run in Minneapolis on behalf of Colonel Eric Kale. And Colonel Kale was supposed to come in and run the race with me. And I'm like, Colonel Kale, how come you're not coming in? He's like, Sheik, I'm having some challenges with my back and my leg, and I'm going to get it checked out. So Colonel Kale goes to check out what's happening with his leg because he can't move it one morning.
Oh, God.
They find cancer. They find cancer on his back. They find cancer in his shoulder. They find cancer that is spread all over his body. Ugh. This is a gentleman that is, physically fit. You want to talk about somebody that's intense? That was him.
Yeah.
He's like, Sheik, I'm very sorry. Have a great run, and we'll see you at the next one. Colonel Eric Kale passed away 8 months later of cancer. Last time that I talked to him, he basically said to me, he's like, Sheik, don't worry about me. Worry about the guy next to me who's lost his limb and who's lost his shoulder to the right and the left of me. Worry about them. I'll be fine. That was my last conversation with him. Fast forward to literally about a year ago today. And I brought this up and I looked at this because I know we were doing this podcast. And I got invited to speak in front of all the interns at NetApp. It was around very similar topic like this, mentorship and what mentorship means to me and how do I go about doing this. And I'm presenting just like I'm talking right now. And I share the same story of Colonel Eric Kale, what he did for me, what it meant for me, how he changed my life. And there's a gal who's monitoring all the chat stuff. Her name is Mercedes Adams. And she's like, Sheik, you don't want to miss, I'm done with my thing. You don't want to miss the last comment in chat. I'm like, sure, Mercedes, what's the question? I'm happy to answer whatever you want. There is a comment in chat from Jake Kale.
Ugh.
Colonel Eric Kale's son is a employee of NetApp for about a year.
Wow.
You want to talk about like one of those moments that, did I say something stupid? Did I do the right thing? Like I'm like, Jake Kale. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Jake Kale, that's Colonel Kale's son. And it was one of those moments that just, teaches you, right, to pause and think. And what it was unbelievable. I basically got done with this presentation, and mind you, this is in front of a couple of hundred interns, right? And I'm ready to ball.
Yeah.
I called Jake Kale right away because I didn't realize that he worked at NetApp, and B, I didn't realize that he was actually on. So I call him up right away. He doesn't answer the phone. I'm like, uh-oh. Did I do something stupid? He called me literally about 5 minutes later. He had been just talking to his mom, saying the story that I just shared.
Yeah.
And he didn't realize the impact. He's like, people would tell me the stories about my dad, that he's no longer with us. But you did such an awesome job of representing what my dad did that I had to call my mom right away. That's what mentorship is about. It's you never know who you're going to affect, who you're going to change, right? The 3 things that you write down on your calendar every month, right? You never know. We have an opportunity, right? You have the opportunity. Whoever's listening to this thing has got an opportunity to go affect somebody's world. You just got to take that first step and go do it. That's what I love about mentorship. And that's quite honestly, I think everyone should be able to do it, right? Mentor your kids. Absolutely. Absolutely mentor your kids. Take somebody else, help somebody else. It is very important to me because somebody helped me and I want to help give it back and pay it forward because you never know. Jake Kale may be on a Zoom session that you never know how you affected him. And now I have a monthly one-on-one with Jake as a formal mentor for him. And it's been once again, right? It's been awesome. So
wow.
Thank you for allowing me to share that.
That is well, thank you for your TED Talk. That was an amazing story, man. Wow. And I just don't think I can add anything to the perfect nature of that story. So I think at this point, I'm just going to say, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for being on. You didn't let us down here. You did us proper, and we really, really, really appreciate it, man. Thanks for everything you do.
Chris, I appreciate the ability to chat and the friendships between yourself and Sandesh and myself. Those are the memories that I want to keep going forward because when it's all said and done, right, it's the memories that you have, and that's what I cherish the most. The friendship is the most important thing to me.
Wow. Amen, so, brother. Amen.
Thanks for bringing it all around, man. Appreciate that.
I appreciate it again. Thank you again.
Thanks. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, click that like button, hit that subscribe button, because that helps the channel tremendously. And if you want to get notified when we post new content, click on that bell icon and you will get those notifications. And I will see you in the next video.